Thank you guys all so very much for joining us today. My name is Grant Henry, one of the Assistant Directors of Admissions at Mount St. Mary's University, and I am joined here by some really awesome co-hosts today, and I'm really interested to have them on our panel today to talk about the study abroad opportunities at Mount St. Mary's University. So I know that throughout the day, or throughout this webinar, you guys might have questions, comments, concerns. As you guys go through that, please be sure to drop your questions here in the chat function. You guys can see that once those questions pop up, I'll be able to ask them of our panelists here today to get your questions answered about the opportunities to study abroad here at the Mount over the course of your 4 years. Really excited to have you, but without any further ado, I am going to turn it over to our wonderful panelists, starting with Dr. Amanda Krause. So please feel free to introduce yourself and we'll get started.
So I'm Dr. Krause, and I'm the newly appointed Director of International Programs. Very excited about that. So I have led a number of trips that we're going to talk about today, and so have our other two panelists. We have Dr. Rodriguez Lozano. Will you say hi?
Hello.
There we go. So her picture should pop up when she speaks. That's why I asked her to say hello. And then Dr. Marco Ramon.
Hello.
There you go. So you
Welcome.
get to see, you get to see all three of us. And we have each led a number of programs, but I'm going to share a screen that has a PowerPoint. We'll go through a few of those programs, talk to you a little bit about what the Mount offers and why you'll want to study abroad, because you will want to, I guarantee it. And so that's kind of the format and what we're going to do. If you just give me 1 second, I'll share the screen. All right. Can you tell me, Dr. Rahman, can you see that okay?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Good. So our study abroad programs, we offer a lot of different variety, and I'm just going to hit them kind of briefly, but we'd be happy to answer deeper questions about each of those options. The other thing that I want to say is one of the really great things about the Mount is if you have a place that you want to go and it's not in the list, we have actually helped individuals go places that we don't typically have study abroad programs. So that's also an option if you want an individualized trip as well. So this is actually a picture of Granada, Spain. I think Dr. Rodriguez Lozano was there when this picture was taken. Did you go on this trip?
Yes, that must be the trip with Dr. Miller.
Correct. Yes. So I just thought this is a beautiful picture to start the PowerPoint with. One thing that you'll notice that is unique about our programs is that we send faculty. So a lot of schools, if you want to study abroad, you might end up studying with faculty from other universities or from universities within that country. But at the Mount, we send a faculty member with you. And that means that, there's just a little bit of comfort in having somebody who you meet on campus before you actually sign up for the trip. And I think that if it's your first time studying abroad, that usually makes it a little bit easier in the transition. But don't worry, it's not too easy, and it's not too easy on purpose. I'll talk about that in a minute. But study abroad programs are probably the single best experiential opportunity that you have as a university student. And so actually going someplace you might be slightly uncomfortable with is something I recommend to a lot of students. It's really an opportunity for growth, but you have a group of students you meet before you leave who are on campus with you, and a faculty member who's going with you. And so it helps with that transition, and it helps with that growth experience. In my own personal experience, I had a hard time studying abroad as an undergrad, just financially. And one of the things that you'll find out about the Mount is we have pretty affordable programs, and your scholarships, your loans, your grants apply for those programs. So if you have a scholarship, you can use that scholarship in the semester that you're studying abroad. If you're doing a semester-long study abroad, if you're doing a summer one, it gets a little bit different. But for the semester-long ones, you can use your scholarships, grants, or loans to pay for part of the program. And that makes it a little bit more possible. Then on top of that, one thing that we are really good at that I think in my own personal experience as a college student was harder is that we're really good at making it fit in your schedule. And so you're still able to major in what you want to major in and to graduate in 4 years. And we actually help those courses you're taking while you're studying abroad fit your schedule. So we just make it more possible for you to do it without there being any kind of onerous or difficult scheduling issues. So I think that's also something that makes our programs unique. This is a picture of Dr. Cagnatis in Pisa, Italy. And I just thought it's a great representation of our faculty on the trip, and a famous image of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. You can see this student right here. This is not one of our students, but another tourist doing what everybody does at the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which is try to get a picture of themselves holding the tower up. It's like the thing to do in Pisa. Yeah. Okay, so just to start off with the semester-long trips, these would be a full fall or a full spring semester. We have 4 of those that we're offering now. We're hoping to actually kind of diversify our offerings even more in the next coming years. But we have Ecuador, Ireland, Italy, and the Czech Republic, technically known as Czechia, but most Czechs don't like that because it sounds like Chechnya. They don't really like that. So the Czech Republic is also an option for us. This is a picture I took of a church. It's actually a monastery in the Czech Republic. The first one that I'll mention is Ecuador. So each of these slides, the next 4 are these 4 programs. I have not been to Ecuador. It is on my to-do list, but Dr. Rodriguez Lozano actually put this trip together. So I'll let her tell you just a little bit about this trip.
We began this trip in Latin America in order to make a semester abroad program more affordable for students, because to go to Europe is a little bit more expensive. So for those students that wanted something a little bit for less money, this is the program. And as I said, any faculty member can take students there. I took them this past semester, and of course we had to come a little bit before. There is a 1-week trip to the Galapagos Island, well, less than a week, but that is optional. But we do go to the Amazon and many other excursions that are included in the program, and we work with the Universidad de Cuenca, the University of Cuenca, and you do not need to know Spanish to go into this in this program.
Right. And one thing I noticed when I was looking through all the pictures for these for this program, I saw a lot of pictures taken by students, and they seem to point out 2 things, like the beauty, the natural beauty in Ecuador, and then also meeting a lot of people, especially in Quito, I think. But so those were the 2 things that I wrote about: learn about the beauty of nature and of the people in Ecuador. If you go to our website, there are blog posts, and some of the students have really written about their experience in numerous countries, and you'll actually see one of these pictures in there. It's a picture a student took. So you get to read about those experiences on your own. In Dublin, the thing that I noticed the most, this is one of our most popular programs, and I think it's because students, especially at a Catholic university, feel a connection to Ireland. That's my guess as to why it's popular. But the thing that you notice when they come back from this trip is a lot of beautiful outdoor hiking, and then also a lot of architecture and beer. Those are the things in the pictures: architecture and beer. And so this trip was fall of 2019. And we're not offering any trips this year, 2021. We'll start back up in the summer of 21, we hope. Coronavirus will hopefully not be as big of a concern, and we'll be able to go in the summer. But this is a fall semester program that is extremely popular.
I did run that one as well, Dr.
Oh, did
Krause.
you?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I can give you a little bit more detail. Like some of the things, the typical excursions that you would do is weekend excursions to Galway and down to Wicklow Mountains. And as Dr. Krause was saying, nature is a big part of Ireland. So there's lots of hiking. You go to the Cliffs of Moher. we visited a lot of the famous sites in Dublin and around Dublin, Brunaboyne, some of the historical areas, Glendalough, medieval monastery. You just really get to know the country very well. And one of the other things with this program is that it has both apartment housing and family stay, as many of our programs do. And the students had a great time getting to know Irish families when they did stay with the family. So it just gives you a little bit more in depth about that program. Anyway.
Thank you, Dr. Roman.
Sure.
If I could pause you really quick, Dr. Krause, sorry. The town of the mountain is currently experiencing a thunderstorm in the nearby areas. So just for all of us on the webinar today, if for some reason your screen goes black, that's just because of the thunderstorm that's coming our way.
Yeah.
But just as a disclaimer, we didn't rage quit on our webinar here today. Just wanted to let you guys know.
And if you heard a dog barking, that was mine. Sorry about that.
Yes.
Okay, so one of my favorite trips is, I've got a lot of favorite trips, but one of my favorite trips is Florence, Italy. And in Florence, you will not only see the Duomo, spend a lot of time in the town of Florence, which has beautiful gardens and bridges, old bridges and architecture. But you also take day trips and weekend trips. Some of them are optional. You can go to Rome, you can go to Pisa. The train system in Italy is really easy and cheap. And so it's easy for students on their own or with the faculty member to take these weekend trips, and we do quite a bit of that. They are apartment stays. Usually you're staying with other Mount students in Italy. And the courses you take really vary quite a bit, but I said you'll go for the food, but love so much more than that, because a number of professors have wanted to teach about Italian food while in Italy. So they've taught some food courses as a part of Italian culture and learning about Italian culture. This one is actually from the spring semester 2020. Dr. Cagnatis, again, as you saw on that entry slide, and he took them to a soccer game. So that's what the picture on the bottom is. He took them to an Italian soccer match because he's a big soccer fan. So this, like I said, it has weekend excursions all over Italy, but Florence itself is a really beautiful, really small town and walkable, which is one of the things that I like about it, is you can show up and walk and take trains everywhere pretty easily. Okay, and then this is Prague. We call this the Prague trip because students actually get apartments in Prague, and most of the classes are taken in Prague. Not a single one of these pictures is taken in Prague that's on this PowerPoint, and that's because there are a ton of weekend and day trip excursions to Terezin, the concentration camp, to Kutna Hora, where the Bone Cathedral is. It's a church with it's kind of gross, by the way. The bones of people who died of the plague are art pieces within the church. And so you see, we are told, like 300 and some skeletons put together in pieces of art. And it's really beautiful in a very creepy sort of way. And then also the Basilica and some of the cathedrals. This is quintessential in the top right corner, a flying buttress. If you've ever taken an architecture class, if you look, I'm the one on the far left in the blue. If you look above my head directly, right where this mouse is, that's a flying buttress. So if you've taken architecture classes, they talk about that. And this is the quintessential church where that's discussed. And so we were standing there and I was teaching them about flying buttresses right before this picture. And then this is an optional one, but when I've led this trip, did a whitewater rafting course with the students. And so obviously optional because not everybody wants to do that. But if you're up for it, there are all kinds of experiences that can happen while you're studying abroad. Okay, so the summer study abroad programs range in length. And I think, Dr. Ramon, have you done Austria or you've done France?
Andy.
France,
That's
yeah.
Andy,
Okay.
Dr. Rosenfeld.
Yes. So Madrid, Spain is actually more than just Madrid, Spain. There are a number of cities that the students will visit in Spain, and it's about 4 weeks, I believe.
Yes.
So would either of you like to talk about that?
For the Spain program, it has been taking place every summer for a few years now. It is in Madrid. It used to be in Sevilla, but Sevilla is such a lovely city. Many students have asked me if we could do 2 weeks in Madrid and 2 weeks in somewhere in the south. And hopefully that's what we will do next summer. 2 weeks in Madrid and 2 weeks either in Sevilla or Malaga. The institute that we work with, Don Quixote, is checking prices for me at this moment, and see if we go to Sevilla or Malaga. The students only need to have completed the 100 level of Spanish for the Spain trip, only the 100 level. Costa Rica, when Dr. Bill will come up and say something about it, Costa Rica is a little bit different because it's total immersion program. But Spain is open for anyone who has completed the 100 level here at the Mount.
Right, and that's true for the French program as well in the city of Tours. So we try to use it as an opportunity for our French students or students who have studied French to speak French, and it's a family stay. You know, both French professors from the Mount are there, and we do teach a culture class while you're studying at the Institute. It's a 4-week program, and we, as you can see in this picture, this slide here, this is the famous Renaissance garden of Villandry, at the castle of Villandry, just outside of Tours. And you know, in an earlier slide there was also this castle of Chenot. So we visited probably about 5 different castles while we're there. One of them being the place where Leonardo da Vinci lived and worked at the French court. And then we have a Paris weekend excursion, and students will go to class approximately 4 hours a day, but they always report that it hardly feels like class. It's just so much fun, and they really enjoy learning more about the language and everything. So that's just a little bit about our France program.
I don't think Dr. Ramon knows this, but this was my first high school trip.
Oh, really? That's great.
The first time I ever traveled abroad was to France.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat. Well, you'll have to come back now.
Yeah.
That would be good.
I always want to travel, so I'll take you up on that. Okay, so Salzburg, Austria is also really, really beautiful. I have been here. I did not lead the trip. I believe this trip is 6 weeks, but I came on my own while I was in the Czech Republic, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. Very green, very mountainous. Once again, a lot of beer. So if you're a beer drinker, there are two options. Dublin and Austria. And I don't know what to say except the architecture is uniquely Austrian. There is definitely a little bit of a Eastern Europe meets Western Europe vibe to the architecture that I don't think that I've seen anywhere else, especially Salzburg, but even in Vienna, if you end up taking a bit of a trip there. It sounds like, Dr. Ramon, you have been there as well?
Yes, and yes. I agree completely. It really is like the East meeting West, for sure.
And just absolutely gorgeous mountains. If you're like me, I don't ski very much, but I hike a lot, so I enjoyed the mountains quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
So Dr. Rodriguez-Lozano, you had already mentioned Costa Rica, but I pulled these fun pictures from your photos. And I thought you might want to talk about the Costa Rica trip a little bit more.
Well, the Costa Rica trip has been going on every summer since, I would say, 1996. So I would say it's the longest summer program that we have. It is total immersion, and the requirement is that students need to complete the 200 level at Mount St. Mary's, or at least the equivalent if you are a transfer students, but it has to be the 200 level, because they complete a requirement in Costa Rica, which is 302 for minors and majors. And it's total immersion. I do give them, due to precautions, the security and all that, I give them an orientation, which is in English, but I always tell them once we meet at the airport, everything is in Spanish until we come back. So the whole thing is total immersion. And what you see there is students take an optional canopy tour, but that will be optional. Normally will cost like $65 or $70 extra when we go to that excursion of Volcán Arenal. The trip is 4 weeks, and the classes are really like 3 hours, but then they also have cooking classes, dancing classes in the afternoons, and we take short excursions like going to a coffee tour, we go to a place where they make sugar, etc.
Mm-hmm. And I can say I've been on that trip, and it's a wonderful experience with Dr. Rodriguez Susana. It's really wonderful.
I have not been on that trip, but as you both know, I have spent a lot of time in Costa Rica. It's one of my field research locations. And it's always funny to me when I hear about this trip, because I am in South, I don't know how well you know this, but southeastern San Jose most of the time. And so it's a very different view of Costa Rica than the hiking in Arenal, but still a really wonderful city.
The classes are in San Jose, in the capital.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they live with families as well.
Yes, I think that's actually one of the best parts about the Costa Rica trip, is that you have them all staying with families.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because in Madrid for the Spain trip, they have the option living with families or in residencias. Everybody chooses the residencia. You know why?
Yeah.
To be out, because in Madrid, I mean, people start going out at 11 o'clock at night. So they prefer the residencias.
Yeah.
So, but for the immersion, total immersion, I think is important to be with families. Yes.
Yes. So I listed just 3 of the 1-week trips. The truth is, the 1-week trips, some of them happen pretty regularly, like Peru happens pretty regularly. China, I think they're trying to offer once a year through a business course. So you take the business course and you can go, it's usually fall break, to China, and it ends up being a little more than a week. So they'll kind of expand their fall break to be like 9 days, just to make that long flight worthwhile. And then spring 2022 will be a 1-week London trip. But the truth is, the 1-week trips, many of them come and go. So we'll do 1 week here, 1 week there. And some of them are service trips and some of them are academic trips. They have a Office of Social Justice has a 1-week trip to Belize. I believe they still do that. But Peru, I believe, Diana, Peru is a pretty regular one that you offer.
Yes,
is that correct?
It's every year because we do service. And I feel that what I try to explain to students, that when we go and we help those in need, the same way that people feel like going to Disney World, we are Disney World for those in need. So they are expecting us every year. Unfortunately, this year we could not go, and I don't know about next year. But we have always helped in an orphanage, and it's the students also get 1 credit through my Department of World Languages. To the culture, because they have to do some culture excursions and read a short story, etc. for that 1 credit. Yeah. But it's service in the mornings. Yes. And we go to Machu Picchu. That picture that you see, we go to Machu Picchu, which is considered the 8th wonder of the world. And I always try to explain to my group that we don't go there for the touristic part, but I want my students and everyone else, because this trip is also open to parents and the employees of the university. And what I want everyone to know, that those that we are helping came from a very amazing civilization, which is the Inca civilization. That's mainly why we go to Machu Picchu.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And as you said about the occasional trips, Amanda, like for example, in the past, I did run a trip to Martinique in the Caribbean with the French students. And we did do cleaning beaches and things for sea turtle population. And the students studied quite a bit about like the life cycle of the sea turtle. We went and beside the actual cleaning, we would like look and they would teach us about the nesting habits. And we went out in the middle of the night in the dark and you know, tried to spot turtles laying eggs and those kinds of things. So it was a lot of fun. And they also learned about you know, French Caribbean culture and read some of the works and things like that. So it was a fun, it was about a 10-day trip. So those are the examples of how professors kind of come up with ideas that are unique each year, I think.
Yeah. And a lot of the 1 week ones are connected to a specific course. So you'll enroll in a course, and then that course has a 1 week trip over either fall break or spring break attached to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Grant, I think that is basically an overview of all of the programs that we have. And I just would want to reiterate one thing that I said early on, which is one thing that's really great about the Mount is that if a student has a place they want to go that's not in our list, we actually try to make that happen. So Dr. Strauss, a history professor, and I put together a trip to South Africa for a student last year. And so we have a lot of those sorts of partnerships we create with universities abroad to send students to their own unique individualized trips as well.
Right. Yeah, several times we've done that for our German majors. We don't have a regular population that's looking for trips, but last year we actually had a student study in Germany over the summer, and about 2 summers before that, another one. So you're absolutely right. Yeah.
That's awesome, and this presentation was really remarkable, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time. We don't have any questions in the chat box, but I do have a question that oftentimes students will ask me when I'm out on the road and talking with them about the study abroad opportunities. But do you have to be any specific major to go on any of these programs?
No.
Not,
right? No,
right.
I mean, for the semester abroad programs, no, you don't have to be in a specific major. For the only course, and Dr. Roman will step in, Costa Rica summer is the only one that is really immersion, because for Peru, you don't have to know Spanish. It's a 1 week trip, and it's open for parents, for family members, Mount St. Mary's employees. So I would say that the only immersion program it's in Spanish is Costa Rica, but again, we have many students, especially summer is very good for education majors, for science majors that would like to do a minor in Spanish, for example. That is a good program to go to. And I have many education and science majors using the summer program. And I think that tours in France is also immersion for French.
But it's a lower level again. It's just 1 year of French. So, and students will generally have studied that, you know, in other words, they may have chosen that language as the one that they're doing the language, world language requirement for the core. And so they have an interest in seeing that country, and this was their opportunity then to travel. So it's not necessarily restrictive in that way. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. We do have one question from Catherine. She asks, are we required to have a study abroad experience at the Mount?
You're not, but why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. The wonderful thing, as Dr. Krause said at the beginning, is that the Mount really makes this very doable. I mean, I know, for example, you know, our tour program, we have other universities that are participating in the exact same institute. And frankly, the pricing that the Mount puts these trips at makes it very possible for our students in comparison. So, and I know that, we're offering more courses, for the core, for these semester programs, so students are not falling behind or anything like that. So it's a wonderful opportunity just to have your Mount education, but not on the campus.
That was actually a point that I was going to bring up, Dr. Rahman, was a lot of times students say, well, if I study abroad, am I going to have to do an additional semester? But you answered that really well by saying that we're going to keep you on track to graduate in 4 years if you have that experience.
Exactly.
Could I add something about the price that Dr. Roman mentioned? It happens so many times when I take my students to Costa Rica. You know how it is, students compare what they have paid and the amount of excursions or activities they're getting for the price. And the Mount students have much more activities or excursions, and our price is either $1,000 or $1,500 less than other institutions. Because one thing that I appreciate what Mount St. Mary's has been doing for years is that other universities try to add an amount of money to those summer programs, and Mount St. Mary's do not do that. So it's very affordable for the students.
Right.
And I'm so glad about that. We had a dean who was a priest, and I told him, I said, I don't want the Mount to make money when so many students have to take student loans to go, and he agreed completely. So the Mount has been very good about that, keeping that promise.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I will say, I think studying abroad as a college student, if you took one of the trips, let's say the Costa Rica summer trip, for example, and you tried to price that out going by yourself or going with maybe 4 other people, you're probably going to pay less for each excursion going with the Mount, pay more overall, but you're getting credit hours towards graduation.
Yeah.
And so if you just looked at the cost of the trip itself, you're saving money because you get a group discount.
Yeah.
And so there is an additional price for the credit hours, the courses you're taking, but for the excursions, you're actually saving money.
Right.
I would like to add to that. May I add something to that? The students in both France and Costa Rica and Spain, they get a total of 6 credits in French, of course, for the French program, and in Spanish for Costa Rica and Spain. And what I always tell students, when they add the amount of credits that they would have paid for those 6 credits, like Dr. Bill said, it's like they're getting the excursions for free.
Absolutely.
Right. And I would bet that if you and your friends tried to book a 1-week excursion to London in the UK or Salzburg in Austria, I guarantee you that there would be, you wouldn't be able to beat the price that they offer for those excursions as well.
Well, we get discounts for the group rates, so that's what makes it more affordable. Yeah.
And so I always like to end these webinars with our student population. They're always, they're starting their college search process during this time of a weird, abnormal time in this global pandemic. But if you guys could give one piece of advice to an incoming student as they're starting their college search process, what would it be?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say to take advantage of all the opportunities that are presented, because college, time is just a time really to explore, and you have this this amazing opportunity with so many different possibilities in front of you, and to try them. If you're tempted by, something, and you're, don't be hesitant. Just go for it and give it a try, because it's likely something that you want to pursue, maybe. So that's my piece of advice.
I am a strong believer of study abroad, and I always tell students that study abroad open doors for a future job. When you are going and look for a job and you put in your resume, in your curriculum vitae, that you have done a study abroad, it doesn't matter if it's a semester or a summer, it opened doors, because both my children, they are no longer children, but my daughter and son, they got their jobs because both went to Costa Rica, but my son also went to the Florence semester program, and that's what gave them their jobs. It opened your minds, and I always tell your students, leave the suitcase behind and be open to other cultures. That's what I think is important about study abroad, as the acceptance of other cultures. Amanda.
Yeah, so I would say that really the biggest thing that you're going to have to do in the next year or so is research schools that fit you, and make sure that you're choosing based on that fit. And so what I mean by that is, I went to a small high school. I applied for a lot of different schools because I had no idea what kind of school I wanted to go to. And I ended up going to Indiana University, and there was a culture shock my first semester that was really hard for me to transition through, because I probably should have chosen a liberal arts college. And some people will say the opposite, right? They'll say they went to a big high school and maybe they chose a liberal arts college and they should have gone to a much bigger school. And so I think the first thing that you have to do is figure out what fits you, and the culture that you're looking for on campus. And so if some of the things that you hear from the Mount speak to you in that way, then we're a place you should come visit. And I think that's really important too, when you know what to listen for. So in the beginning, I said, we make it possible. We send faculty with you, faculty you know. Is that something that you're looking for? It was something I was looking for, and I think is really important and is a big benefit of the Mount. And so it was a plus for me. But just think through if that's something that you want and whether that fits you, because the campus culture and the kind of university you're at are going to play a big role in the next 4 years.
Awesome. Thank you guys all so much for taking the time today and being with us on the webinar. To our panelists and to our students here, thank you guys all so very much. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you guys want to join us for another summer webinar, feel free to just visit us at msmary.edu/admissions, and we'll be happy to help you out. But thank you guys all so very much. Have a great day, and go Mount.